started this story, Indigo. Indigo, as I told you people yesterday, it's a story from pre-independent India, right? The initial word indigo, the word indigo, we have heard this word from the rainbow color, right? It is that blue tone color with the part of vibgyor, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. These are the rainbow colors. So there we heard first time the word indigo. Indigo is basically a crop, and India has indigo plantations. Now, this is a story of pre-independent India where the condition of the peasants, farmers, or the sharecroppers, it was really miserable. They were suppressed by the Britishers. They had to give a part of their crop as a rent to the Britishers. So that term is known as sharecroppers, means the peasants who work on the Britishers' land, and as a rent, they have to give a part of their crop to the Britishers. Now, yesterday, what all we have read in the beginning itself, we are introduced to a peasant known as Rajkumar Shukla. The condition of the peasants in Champaran was really very bad, as these peasants, these sharecroppers, they were growing indigo on some part of their land. But now Britishers had decided to purchase indigo, synthetic indigo from some other country, because of which the farmers were really suffering. They had to pay rent, that particular part of land, it was waste for them. So they were suffering. They were suffering from major losses. So it was at that time when Rajkumar Shukla, it was at that time that Rajkumar Shukla, one of the sharecroppers, he approached Gandhiji. Gandhiji being a national fighter, independence struggler, he was busy with other meetings. He was busy with other people at that time, right? So he was not able to give him time. But Rajkumar Shukla, though being a poor peasant, though being a sharecropper, but he was very resolute. We learned this word resolute, which means he was a determined man and he followed Gandhiji everywhere. So finally, Gandhiji agreed to go along with him. Now, when they were going to Champaran, Muzaffarpur was en route to Champaran. That means it was on the way to Champaran. So Gandhiji met Mr. J.B. Kriplani, Dr. Rajendra Prasad over there. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was an advocate who later on became the first president of independent India. He went to his home, but there he was not able to meet him as he was not there. The servant thought that Rajkumar Shukla, just like he was a peasant, he was a sharecropper, so he assumed that Gandhiji, his companion, was also one of the peasants. So he made them sit on the ground. He didn't allow Gandhiji to take out water from the well, because they were not aware that whether he was a Brahmin or he was an untouchable. He had no idea at all, right? So after this incident, they went to Muzaffarpur, where they were welcomed by J.B. Kriplani and the students, right? Now, the purpose Gandhiji wanted to have a meeting with the advocates was that he actually wanted to understand the real reason behind this entire incident, and how fair the sharecroppers were, or what injustice the Britishers were doing, all these things, right? So we are reaching from that part. We are starting from that, continuing from that part where Gandhiji is, he was trying to study all the details and understand everything from the advocates. So we have to start from this. We have done this also. I believe we have done. We have to start from Gandhi chided the lawyers for collecting biggie, right? So we have to start from this particular point. Just read out the last one, and then we are going to continue from the next. This stanza, though I think we have read, but still, you have to start from, it was an extraordinary thing in those days.
Okay, ma'am. It was an extraordinary thing in those days, Gandhi commented, for a government professor to harbor a man like me. In smaller localities, the Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of home rule. The news Gandhi's advent and of the nature of his mission spread quickly through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran. Sharecroppers from Champaran began to arriving on foot and by conveyance to see their champion. Muzaffarpur lawyers called on Gandhi to brief him. They frequently represented peasants group in courts. They told him that their cases and reported the size of the fee.
Now, this is where in Muzaffarpur he tried to understand what the case was, what actually the incident was, how they were suffering, and the major part, the fee which the advocates were charging. Now, that was a big trouble. Already, the peasants, they belong to a segment which hardly is able to earn their 2 meals a day. Hardly they are able to, earn bread and butter for their family. And at this point, upon this, the worst thing was that if they were approaching the advocates were charging very high fee. So obviously these sharecroppers could not afford that fee. Please continue.
Yes, ma'am. Gandhi chided the lawyers for collecting big fee from the sharecroppers. He said, I have come to the conclusion that we have stopped going to the law courts. Taking such cases to courts does little good. Where the peasants are so crushed and fear-stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear. Most of the arable land in Champaran district was divided into large estates owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. The landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20 or 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. This was done by long-term contract.
So that was the entire story now. First of all, Gandhiji chided the lawyers. It was that he scolded the lawyers or criticized the lawyers for collecting such a big fee from the sharecroppers who were already so poor and who were already suppressed by the Britishers. They were suffering a lot. So Gandhiji said, I have come to the conclusion that we should stop going to the law courts. So Gandhiji told the sharecroppers that there is no need for us to go to the law courts. Taking such cases to the courts does little good. He said that there is no point taking such cases to the court because they're going to charge such high fee and you never know what the result comes, or whether the result comes or not, that was also not very clear. So taking such cases to the courts does little good. The peasants were crushed and fear-stricken that the law courts are useless. So he realized that the first and the foremost thing which he had to do was bring out the poor sharecroppers out of that state of fear, right? They were scared every time. They had to be free. They need to get that mental relaxation. So he required, that was the first essential thing for the sharecroppers. So now this is the story, what exactly it was. Most of the farming land in Champaran district was divided into large estates owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. So the land was owned by the English people, but the Indians were working as tenants on them. The chief commercial crop was indigo. So the chief crop which was grown on that land was indigo. The landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20 of or 15% of their holdings with indigo. So it was compulsion from the Britishers that Indian farmers should grow 15% of their land holdings with indigo only. Now, and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. So as rent, they have to give that indigo plantation to the Britishers. Now, this was done by a long-term contract, right? There we understand. Please continue. You have to start from presently the landlords.
Presently. Yes, ma'am. Presently, the landlords learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo. They thereupon obtained agreements from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. The sharecropping arrangement was irksome to the peasants, and many signed willingly. Those who resisted engaged lawyers, the landlords hired thugs. Meanwhile, the information about synthetic indigo reached the illiterate peasants who had signed, and they wanted their money back.
Now, there arises the problem. Now, the 15% of the land they were compelled to grow indigo on that, and that indigo plantation was given by the Indian farmers, Indian sharecroppers to the Britishers as rent. Now the problem here was that the landlords learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo. That there was synthetic indigo which Germany had developed. So they thereupon obtained agreements from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. So what they were doing, because that agreement was signed by the Indian peasants earlier, that they have to, long-term contract was there, that they have to give 15% of their indigo crops as rent to the landowners, Britishers. Now, when this was learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo, so what Englishmen did, they want the Indian sharecroppers to give them compensation because now they do not require that 15% indigo. Okay, so now they are saying, no, we do not require that 15% indigo, which 15% plantations of indigo, which you are growing on your farm. Earlier, it was compelled by them only, right? Now, the sharecropping arrangement was irksome. So the sharecropping thing was it was not an easy thing. It was really very irritating to the peasants, and many signed willingly. Those who resisted engaged lawyers, landlords hired thugs. So if anybody resisted for that compensation which the farmers had to give, so the landlords hired thugs to cheat them, to somehow get it signed by them. Meanwhile, the information about synthetic indigo reached the illiterate peasants who had signed, and they wanted their money back. So they said that we want our money back. As compensation, if some of them have given them the money, when they realized that was the reason that now they're getting indigo plantations from Germany and our plantations will be waste, then they wanted their compensation money back. So that was the reason of the clash. Let's continue, please. You have to start from at this point.
At this point, Gandhi arrived in Champaran. He began by trying to get the facts. First, he visited the secretary of British Landlords Association. The secretary told him that they could give no information to an outsider. Gandhi has answered that he was no outsider. Next, Gandhi called on the British official commissioner of the Trihut division in which the Champaran district lay. The commissioner, Gandhi reports, proceeded to bully me and advised me forthwith to leave Trihut.
Okay, at this point, Gandhi arrived in Champaran. Now, Gandhiji arrived in Champaran at this point. He began by trying to get the facts, right? So he started to dig out the facts, and he visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association, but there he was not entertained. He was rather, he said that we won't give any kind of information to an outsider. Gandhiji then called on to the British official commissioner of the Tirhut division in which the Champaran district lay. So Champaran district was under Tirhut division. So Gandhiji went there and wanted to meet the British official commissioner there. The commissioner, though he bullied Gandhiji, he he was not respectful, or he was not showing any kind of courtesy towards Gandhiji, and he threw him out without listening to him anything. So we have to move on further.
Gandhi did not.
Continue. Gandhi did not leave.
Yes, ma'am. Gandhi did not leave. Gandhi did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. Several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhi. He went to a house and, using it as headquarters, continued his investigations. A report came in that a peasant had been maltreated in a nearby village. Gandhi decided to go and see. The next morning, he started out on the back of an elephant. He had not proceeded far when the police superintendent's message overtook him and ordered him to return to town in his carriage. Gandhi complied. The messenger drove Gandhi home, where he served him with an official notice to quit Champaran immediately. Gandhi signed a receipt for the notice and wrote on it that he would disobey the order.
So now here we find actual Gandhiji and his role here, how he played. See, till now he was very soft. He was just trying to approach people to take out the solution. He went to British officer's house, commissioner, but because nobody was even willing to listen to his grievance, so finally he had to take up a step. So now Gandhiji did not leave. As in Tirhut, he was commanded that he should leave immediately. But Gandhiji did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. So now he was in the middle of the city. In the capital of Champaran, Motihari, he was there. And several lawyers accompanied him. He had influenced many people who were there to support him in his this act of getting justice for the poor sharecroppers. So at the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhi. There were good number of people who were there in support of Gandhiji, and people were there to receive him. So he went to a house, and using it as headquarters, he continued his investigations. A report came in that a peasant had been maltreated in nearby village. Then he heard news that there was a peasant who was really maltreated in a nearby village. So Gandhiji decided to go and see what actually it was. The next morning, he left that house to go and meet that peasant, and he was on the back of an elephant. So when the news reached the Britishers, they ordered Gandhiji on his way only to go back. He had not proceeded far when the police superintendent messenger overtook him and ordered him to return to town in his carriage. Means here you can see that Gandhiji, how he worked, right? He heard the news that some peasant was, something wrong has been done to one of the peasants. So he wanted to go and check it out. He wanted to see what was the condition of the peasant, what has gone wrong. So when he went to that place, when he was going to that place on an elephant, he was stopped on the way by one of the superintendent police, and he was strictly told to quit Champaran immediately, to leave Champaran and go back. Gandhiji signed a receipt for the notice because there was a notice. So Gandhiji signed that notice, and he wrote on it that he would disobey the order, right? Because perhaps it was clear to the Britishers that he was an influential man, and he was influencing masses in Champaran. Champaran peasants, even the advocates, the sharecroppers, the common people, they were being influenced by Mahatma Gandhi there, and they were supporting him in his action of revolt, though by non-violent methods, but he was revolting against, he was raising his voice against the Britishers, and all these people, they were supporting him, right? So here we find that Gandhiji, while he was doing so, he simply, when somebody's, the police superintendent showing him the notice, tried to stop him, and he ordered him that, see, the notice says that you have to quit Champaran immediately. So Gandhiji took that notice, he signed it, and clearly mentioned that I would be disobeying the order. I'm not going to take up this order, right? Shali, let's continue. Just a sec. You have to start from this one. In consequence.
In consequence, Gandhi received the summons to appear in court the next day. All night, Gandhi remained awake. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Bihar with influential friends. He sent instructions to the ashram. He wired a full report to the viceroy. Morning found the town of Motihari black with peasants. They did not know Gandhi's record in South Africa. They had merely heard of a Mahatma who wanted to help them, was in trouble with the authorities. The spontaneous demonstration in thousands around the courthouse was the beginning for their liberation from fear of the British.
Now, this was something strange which was happening for the first time. Now, as I told you that Gandhiji had clearly mentioned in that notice, the notice was related to that he need to quit Champaran immediately. Gandhiji clearly mentioned that I'll be disobeying the order. As a result, Gandhiji received the summons to appear in the court the next day, because he had said that I'll be disobeying the British order, and Britishers were the ruling power in our nation at that time. So there was summons that he had to appear in the court next day because he was opposing the government. He was disobeying the orders of the government. So all night Gandhiji remained awake. So Gandhiji didn't sleep that night. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Bihar with influential friends. So he now telegraphed Dr. Rajendra Prasad, whom he went to meet, but he was not able to meet. So he telegraphed him, informing him the incident, and he asked him to come to Champaran along with his influential friends. He sent instructions to the ashram at Sabarmati. Then he wired a full report to the viceroy. Then he gave a full report to the viceroy. Wired here is again referred for telegraphed. Now, morning found the town of Motihari black with peasants. So early in the morning, he found that the town of Motihari was full of peasants. The peasants had arrived in Motihari from Champaran district, from the various parts of Champaran. They were in Motihari now, in outside the court in a big number. They did not know Gandhi's record in South Africa. As I discussed this thing with the people yesterday also, if we read Gandhiji's biography or autobiography, we have heard, you must have heard many stories related to Gandhiji's, his resistance of discrimination between the blacks and whites in South Africa. He raised his voice against that also, because that discrimination was very, very much prevalent in South Africa at that time. So, but these people, these peasants or the sharecroppers, they were not aware of anything related to Gandhiji, what had happened in South Africa and who this man was. They simply knew that they had heard that a Mahatma was there in Motihari, and the purpose of his visit was that he wanted to help them as they were in trouble. So if this man, this Mahatma, would help them to fight against the authorities. So their spontaneous demonstration in thousands around the courthouse was the beginning of the liberation from the fear from the British. So that fear which they were facing from the British, this was the first act where these people, they were going to be free from that fear. And somebody was there to take the lead. Now, the Mahatma Gandhi was there. So these people, the peasants, had arrived in big number. They were standing outside the court for that spontaneous demonstration around the courthouse. Now, see, this was the major thing there. When a large number of people are around there supporting or opposing a particular action of the government, there is a big pressure on the government, and that pressure has to be considered. That you can see in today's period also, whether it is your Nirbhaya story, it was because wrong was really done with the girl, and there was a lot of pressure. People were really against. There were candle marches, there were protests, there was non-violent protests were also there, and all these things were there. So people pressured government that if something wrong has been done, whether it's related to a dignity of a girl, it was the life of the girl was killed, even the life of the family's life was also ruined, whose girl was died in that way. So there was a lot of pressure upon the government, so government had to take up the step. Similarly, the Kanpur incident, just which happened few days back, so we can see that common man, the pressure of the public is there upon the government also. So here also we find that there are people in large number, they gathered outside the court, because of which there was a tremendous pressure upon the British officials and the British government. Let's continue, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Shubhangi, you have to start there from the officials felt powerless.
The official felt powerless without Gandhi's cooperation. He helped them regulate the crowd. He was polite and friendly. He was giving them concrete proof that their might, hitherto dreaded and unquestioned, could be challenged by Indians. The government was baffled. The prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the trial. Apparently, the authorities wished to consult their superiors.
Now, the officials felt powerless without Gandhi's cooperation. So, because Gandhiji was not cooperating him, even in the court, so they felt powerless. He helped them regulate the crowd. So, Gandhiji was the one who helped to regulate the crowd. Who was the one who was like that the crowd should be not against them too much. They should not revolt. They should not use any kind of violent method. So, he regulated the crowd. He managed the crowd. He was polite and friendly. He was giving them concrete, hitherto dreaded and unquestioned, could be challenged by Indians. So he was polite and friendly, and politely he told officials that if they would misuse their power, then there were chances that they would have to face a revolt from the Indians. So in a way, he was clearly telling the Britishers that, see, if you are not going to cooperate, and if you are misusing your power, then there will be a revolt here right now, and the people are there in a big number. You would not be able to control them, right? So as the situation was getting tougher, now the lawyer requested the court to postpone the trial for some days. That is what we need to see. The government was baffled, the government was confused, they were nervous, and the prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the trial. Apparently, the authorities wished to consult their superiors. So, because the authorities had to consult their seniors, right? So, this was a big thing. The Britishers, they wanted to sue a man. A man was there in the court. He was given the summon because he had disorder. He had not taken up his orders. He had disobeyed the orders. Now, to support this man, people were there in big number, but there could be the chances of the revolt were very high. The man was not cooperating with them, and finally it was Mahatma Gandhi only who managed the crowd, and he told them clearly that if you will misuse your power, then these people outside the court, they will